entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated. Guys, welcome. This is, probably either session 2 or session 3 of my conversation with Jeni Hott, and who is just an amazing friend, and she just shares so much. If you didn't catch the previous session from the week before, you got to go back and take a listen. I think we're dividing this conversation into 3 episodes, but it's super valuable. I promise you that if you have a digital marketing or you have a social media desire or hope or flaw, even in what you're currently doing, this conversation is going to be relevant. So go back to the previous week and listen to the first episode, and then come back and see us for the next episodes here. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you being a fan. Please share this one, because there's so many businesses out there that need this. So share us, like us. We appreciate it. We'll chat soon. So I'm going to put this into layman's terms and tell me if I'm fucking crazy. This is what I think is kind of fucked up in our world. Sorry for the language, guys, but as you were talking about this is exactly what I was thinking about. This is how I relate it. People go to a restaurant, they take a picture of their plate and they post it on Facebook or wherever they post it, on their whatever the platform they're on. They take this picture and then everybody sends, oh, like. And they feel like they actually have friends and that they're important. But what they're not doing is adding any fucking value to anybody's life whatsoever. And they end up swirling back to our original conversation.
But are they? But they are. But here, you know what they're doing is they're adding connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed. But
yeah. But it's friend zone. You're right.
But the alternative is what I would say would be, and I'm totally open to being wrong on this, but because then we trap people like, yes, there's connection, but they're actually trapping connection into this device here. And then what that does is distress, because we only have so much time, energy in our brain, right? And focus, so that now I'm focused on my cell phone and somebody who is taking a picture of a meal, when I'm walking down the street and there's a homeless person and I don't connect with them, or there's somebody who might need the door held open, or I'm in an elevator and instead I'm looking at somebody's picture of a meal and I'm not saying, hey, how are you today? How was your day? Have a wonderful day. Be safe, drive safe, getting out of the Uber. Like, do you tell your Uber driver, drive safe? I really hope, God bless you. Like, whatever your thing is. And then it's like, or if instead of taking a picture, it's like, and this is the answer to, like, how would I want somebody to save or share something like this? It's like, you walk out of a restaurant, you had an amazing meal, and you post a picture on a reel or whatever, and you go, hey guys, I just want you to know, I was in New York City and I just had the best service at the greatest restaurant, ate the best food, or had, this great wine, whatever it is. And you post that and people go, oh shit, next time I'm in New York, I'm going to go to that restaurant because I want a recommendation. And then, so to me, like, it's the elevated, like, we post stuff that is somewhat irrelevant to other people's lives, but makes us feel great. But we're really not asking the question, like, how can I help add value through the experience of what I had? Like, does that make sense? I might be completely wrong.
No, I absolutely agree.
But
every post I put out there is usually ask myself, like, why do they care? Why do they care?
Right. What does this mean?
Is this about them or is it about me?
Yeah. Right. And I think as a business, guys, that's what if you were embarking on, and what we were really talking about was growing this platform, like getting viewers, but you're going to get that, and you're going to get shares, and you're going to get saves by producing content that is meaningful to them, not listening to radio station WIFM, what's in it for me. And thank you for that distinction, because I think that we think about, it's the difference between quantity versus quality, right? It's like, Heather, I know you bounced on, and I'm happy for you to jump into this conversation because I know you live in this world as well. And so, if you have any questions, please pop on and just interrupt me. Um, so the second next step then is okay. So if we're growing our base, if you will, uh, people who are seeing us, we're looking for shares and saves. Then on the sales side, uh, if you're trying to gain a client, I guess is what you're really talking about when you say sales. Is that correct? Yeah. Or you're trying to sell part of your product or sell a course online or sell, something online. You were talking about some things like engagement posts, story posts, and I don't know.
Objection
So
posts.
like an objection post. Yeah, that was the other one. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell she's
You
talking
know
about.
what it is?
So
It's here's the easiest way to think of it is think of everything you would put on a sales page. Those are the things that you're going to break down. Like this is the easiest thing in the world is to look at your sales page, take pieces of it and turn that into posts. Then you pay attention to what's getting the likes, the saves, the shares, sorry, more of the saves and shares, but also the conversions. What's getting the people over to buy? And you just start doubling down on whatever it is that's working. You really pay attention like the details of it, right? But if you're posting and like you're getting a ton of traffic from this one and they convert, that converts, rinse and repeat. And it's crazy to me is most entrepreneurs, they're too busy doing busy work to actually just slow down and look at those things and really like take that magnifying glass and be a detective and see what's really working.
Heather just chimed in and asked a great question, which was like this: what's on the sales page is a bit of an enigma for her. And it was for me, I was trying to digest it as you were saying it, Jeni. And well, I wrote down three letters: FAB, which is old school. Again, bringing back old into new or whatever. And as things change, they actually don't change. But FAB, features, advantages, benefits. That's like what you learn like 30 years ago when I was learning how to sell products. It was like, what are my features? What are my advantages? What are my benefits to my product or service? And how do I portray that to the customer? And so I'm wondering, that was going to be my question, super aligned with where Heather's mind was going, is like, is that what you're talking about when you say what's on your sales sheet?
So for me, a sales page is going to be, again, it's going to be different for every business, right? So it's not, there's no wrong way or right way to do it. And sometimes it does take a little bit of testing to see, not sometimes, it always takes some testing to see what's going to work best. But there's certain pieces that you're always going to have, right? You're going to have a very strong hook. And I look at having multiple hooks. So like the hook is the title, then you've got the tagline, which is also, people don't realize this, but that's also another hook. And then you've got an image, and the image is also a hook. So those are things, but if you think about that, that's something you can have in post. Then you're going to have certain pieces like, your intro, your, again, like just like he described, that was perfect. I focus on results. I'm very results focused in marketing. I don't do fear mongering. I don't do anything like that. I focus on result marketing. So whatever those results are, I'll take a piece of that. I'll take a sentence from it, turn it into a social post. Then you're going to have, objections. You're going to list all the benefits. Like every one of those pieces, you can put those into posts, right? You're going to have FAQs. You're going to turn those into posts regularly, hopefully a lot. Objections and anything that gets them to really connect with the potential, the idea of having the result that you're offering, the solutions you're offering, and then focusing on what their life looks like. That's usually painted into your sales page. So things like that, you can take those and turn it into your sales page. I mean, into your post. Sorry.
Got it. And then and so I'd ask this: is most people don't buy because they're either confused or fearful. Those are pretty much like, when you really break it down, there's confusion or fear. Fear that if they spend the money, they're not going to get what they want or need. Um, and confusion is, we have made it so complex to for the buyer or the person to make a decision, that they just go, they 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, boom, and their brain explodes, and then they're just like, I got to go somewhere else. So how would you address that in this, like when you talk about the sales page, which you know, I'm envisioning a page on my website or something, or is that kind of what that looks like for?
It is. So I have things that I put in place that kind of make the confusion less relevant. So like in one of my sections of my Time Rich program is called Cash and Clarity. In there, I talk about the ideal client, but I take a different look at it. I don't do the typical ideal client avatar. I actually break it down into timelines, and most people they'll realize they think they have multiple avatars, right? I don't see it that way. I see it as looking at a person on a timeline. So from the time that they have the problem to the time that they must have the solution, to they actually acquire the solution, I look at their timeline, I look at what they've gone through, and I do research to really nail this, like just dial it in. But I look at all of this. Now, someone that's early on in the time in the timeline there, they're still in the do it yourself phase, or it's not really a big problem, right? That person is easily swayed by confusion.
Mm,
Now, if you look at someone that's gone for it, they've gone through all the stuff, right? Usually, like for me, it's an entrepreneur who's tried a business and flopped, and tried a business and it flopped. Tried a business, they've gone through all the pain, they've gone through like so much stuff, and more time has gone by. Sometimes not even that much time. It's just it was so painful that they were like, "Oh my god, I need somebody to help me." Right? I go for the person that's ready for help. That they're like, the way I say this is like somebody, and this is why I don't believe in know, like, and trust. And like that's not my strategy. It's a strategy that that most people use online, but I don't see it as necessary because I go for someone that's on the timeline and these different points that I call tipping points. So let's say like somebody needs to lose weight, right? And they've just had a baby, and their first little time there, they're like, it's not a big deal. It'll come off, right? And so a little more time passes, and now they've put on a little more weight. And they're like, okay, I'll take it more seriously now, and I'll start to follow some people on YouTube or on Instagram, and I'll do their little challenge, or maybe maybe I'll invest in a little mini course that they don't do because they don't value it, and they're not really serious enough about it yet, right? So
yeah.
they go a little bit further. It's not working. So they go through a little more pain. Maybe they've tried it, and every time they fail, that's a tipping point. Every time and I use the word fail lightly, but every time they've gone through that setback where the expectation has been diminished, where they thought they had it, and then boom, it didn't work, right? And so they're all hope is lost, and they're sad, and they're feeling bad, and like one of them, like the biggest one, is when I had my telemedicine companies, and the individuals would come home from the doctor's office, and the doctor, this is a tipping point, it's a major tipping point, so they've had been struggling with weight their whole life.
Yep.
Now they've gone to the doctor, and the doctor has said, you need to lose 100 pounds so that you can have this life-saving surgery. That's a tipping point.
Right.
Now if I'm only speaking to them in that moment, and I'm speaking to their pain in that moment, I'm not talking about like, I'll help you lose weight, do my 20-day challenge. Like that's someone that's going to be swayed by confusion. This person that just came home from the doctor and has no clue because the doctor doesn't give him any guidance, right? The doctor's not, that's not their specialty. They're just telling him, you're going to die if you do not have this surgery. And I know, I say this lightly, but truly, I had millions of people that were in this situation where they came home from the doctor. They didn't know what they were doing. They were scared. They're looking at their family going, oh my God, my kids could grow up without a father.
Hmm.
Like they were at that point. Do you think that person is easily swayed by confusion?
Right.
No, they
No.
need a result now. They need help right now. So if you come in and you're like, here, you're on fire. I have a bucket of water. It's $5. Do you think they need to go? Like, I think I need another few months to see if I know, like, and trust you. No. They're like, here's the $5. Give me the bucket of water. Right.
Yep.
So if you can start to line things up, and if you line every brick of your business up, this is just one piece. This is just your client. If you line every big brick of your business up like that, that's how you end up with what I teach as passive income, where you really have everything is so much easier. It's less work, less effort, less time it takes to convert. When you have all of those things lined up, that's what makes the difference. That's when you can get rid of the need to have to convince them, right? Which also ties into the mindset stuff because for me, when I look at somebody that's in a convincing stage of marketing, where they're going to write, like an email sequence, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I hope that they buy. I've got to get them to convince. I need to get a client." And there's been so much angst that comes through in their positioning, their marketing, their choice of everything. I don't. It even comes across in the choice of platforms that they're going to choose for their marketing, for their email marketing. Like it comes across in everything. And that's when you get into struggle. Where versus if you come in and you're like, okay, I know exactly who my client is. They are on fire. They need my help. I've got a solution that works, and I know it's here for them. That conviction comes through as leadership. That comes through as, I am going to take your hand and I'm going to help you. Right now, we're going to go do this together. And you send out an email in that sense and that authority, that's when you've got someone that is not confused. They don't, I mean, even if they were confused, they would still buy, right? But when you come in like that, that's when the magic happens. That's when you don't have to worry about convincing. That's when you don't have to worry about, if they're in the right state to buy. Like all of that tied together is just magic. It's just magic. And that's why I say, like, I work more on the mindset pieces where I'm like, okay, let's get you in there where you're showing up as a leader. Let's build that confidence. Let's get you to the point where you're like, I have this conviction in my product, in my solution. I know that it works. And I'm going to show up in this state every single time and just know that whatever I put out there is the right thing. I cannot make a wrong decision because I am here in this moment, in this state, and I'm going to help them.
Right.
That's massively different than, I hope they buy. I
But
hope they get this,
so
right?
then, do you create with your social media slash sales campaign, online sales campaign funnels, if you will, for lack of a better word, for each stage of where your potential client is at? Because based on that kind of concept of, and I agree with you, it's like you're 100% right. If you know whatever through whatever the process is to that the potential client has to get to make that decision, and there's a threshold that when they get to the high threshold, it's like I have to take action now. um how do you line up your social media strategy,
So
or
it's
do you, I guess is the
I
question.
do. I absolutely do.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing as I go back and see, that's the foundation, right? That's what I started to teach in the beginning. We're going to do this backwards. But when you go back to your social media and you start to look and see, okay, what were they responding to? What made them laugh? What made them cry? And you start building your vault based on those responses and the people that you want and speaking to those people, like just like I said,
Hmm.
you build that vault of, and before you know it, your social media is speaking to them in that moment. You're speaking in that authority. You're speaking in that sense of leadership, and you're literally doing the same thing in that I just said in the email, where it's like you're going in every post going, I'm going to take you by the hand. Here's your solution. I feel your pain. I know what's in your head, right? You build that vault of social media content that's speaking to them in in those tipping moments, and you only focus on that versus all the other stuff where everybody else, the majority of, I look at it as a pyramid. There's all the vague stuff that everybody's teaching, everybody's saying in social media. It's all the same, right?
Yep.
And the more specific you get and the more targeted you are, it goes up the pyramid. And before you know it, like, there's not much competition up here. And again, it like all comes together, right? Where you've got so much less competition, people that are really needing your help. You're showing up in like that sense of authority that nobody else is really showing up as. That's Tony Robbins is at the top of the pyramid, right?
Hmm.
It's a whole different world, but you have to line up everything. The social media takes time to do that. But before you know it, you start to just have it like, by the back of your hand. Like, I know I used to have it down to a calendar in my head where it'd be like, okay, this is October. I know these types of posts need to go out. This is what converts in October. Like I had it down so much that was like, some of them can say specific. So like over a year, you can have an entire annual calendar, an editorial calendar that specific ones are going to stay the same, and then you're just going to modify and continue to optimize over time. But for me, it was like, okay, I know January through April is my peak season for this business. And I know these specific emails need to go out at this time. I know that Fridays are the days, like now, Fridays are the days when people want to play. So I know that's a big day for my engagement posts. Like you get it down so well. And it does take time. But when you start to really pay attention to what they're responding to and how they're responding, and if that's what you want at that time, you can start to narrow it down to the point where it's just predictable. And then you only have to focus on optimization versus just getting it to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Figuring out what's going to work.
Creating the base program of what you're going to do. Yeah, and then yeah. And would you like all the things that we're talking about here? Would the expectation of a business owner would it be would it be a really bad assumption that a social media manager, experienced social media manager, sorry, experienced online business manager, sorry, I keep getting confused. They, would they be able to manage and create this for a business owner, or
Yes, and that's the beauty of having a vault, because when you are ready to hire a social media manager, here's your vault of all the content that actually works.
yeah? if there's somebody out there that they don't really have a strategy, they post the odd thing, they really like they're kind of loosey goosey with their stuff. Like it's like, I don't know, auto repair company, I don't, whatever, it's, and they just kind of post something. Oh, we did this, we did that. Like, where do they, like, how do they, what's the first step they need to take to just change from their regular posts that we were talking about earlier that really don't add value to where they do? And I guess I'm probably going to about to answer my own question, but
In all honesty, like I always tell them, the first thing to do is go find a mentor, go find a coach, go find someone that has a holistic program, not just a little mini course or micro course. Those are very rarely are those really going to be helpful. But if you find someone that can actually teach you or teach your team a real system, that's the difference. But the sooner they can understand the core concepts versus just the traditional like post 80% value and 20% promo, like that's the kiss of death for me. Like I see somebody doing that and they usually come to me because they've been following that rule and they're struggling bad, like really bad. So usually that's my first rule is find someone that can teach you the core concepts before you even hire somebody. Now, if there's someone that's more like it's going to be you, like I know you're not going to sit through, you're not going to have time to sit through with a mentor or a coach, but you can have someone in your team that's learning from them, right? Or you hire a social media manager and you really do stay in touch with them a little bit to be familiar with the core concepts in the beginning, just so that you can do that, you can have an idea of where you want to go. It's kind of like you said, like Tennille sits down with one of your team members and is able to say like, okay, this is not working, right? You need to have some kind of basic understanding of it so that you can direct it a little bit just to get him to make sure it's being productive and it's worth it. I'm gonna do another spray. Here's my throat.
sorry, I've lost you there on the internet.
Did you?
So
Am
yeah,
I back?
no, I got you there. You're back now. Yeah. Um, I missed the last piece of that really, actually. So I don't know if you could repeat
I
it.
was saying, as like a business owner, I still want to have the basic concepts. I still want to have a basic
Mhm.
understanding of how it works,
Yep.
so that I can properly direct them or like just at least oversee it. I don't like the worst thing like I see is so common are people that go and run ads and they trust in an ad company. I had a client come to me that they had spent $1 million on ads and got zero return, zero. And the company just kept telling me, we just got to try something different. We got to do something different. And I felt so bad for them. And I was like, if you had some kind of understanding of how this works yourself first, before you go and hire someone or try to pass it off to someone, it would have been a different story. Right. So personally, I like to have an understanding of the concepts, the basics. And then you hire someone that you can trust to take over it and to do it, but you at least want to be able to have a conversation with them, right? And understand what's happening. That's like it's like I don't know. I don't think I would ever get too big to want to understand the basics of something that's going to be a part of my business.
Yeah, you have to have, the bigger your business gets, you have to have competent people who have either done it. You hire, like if you're that big that you don't have the time, then you should be hiring somebody who has done it before, like you say, whether that's internally or hire a coach and a mentor to coach your team, and then you have people who have certain responsibilities, and that's kind of how you have to structure it. And this is going to be like a completely. I know we've sent people to your courses, like I know we have, and I know Tennille's taken your courses, and but do you have a course that teaches people this exact topic? I know
You know,
this.
it's funny is I just added a piece to Time Rich that's called What to Post, and it teaches my concepts on social media. It's a part of it, but it's funny as I was laughing when I was creating it because I was like, if you'd asked me a year ago if I was going to teach any social media, I would have laughed. I would have just been like, there's no way. But more and more, as I was telling my students how to do these things, I would look at their posts and I'm like, wait, why would you post that?
Why
Like,
would you post that shit?
yeah, I was like, okay, we've got to have some understanding here. Like, you don't,
Yeah.
yeah, like don't do this. Just and keep it simple. But most of the time, it was to like they were following what the latest guru said on Instagram, or like, and I'm like, they're in a different era of their business, or they're saying to do this, but they can afford to spend tens of thousands of dollars to test, if this is going to work first, and then they're telling. So it was just trying to save them, and now it's a really good piece of it. I don't know if I'm gonna add it like offer it separate because it like I said, my program is very holistic. So it teaches a little bit of everything. It starts out with like how to create a timeless offer so that you don't have to redo it later or to scale or whatever. It's just designed for passive income. You can use it to make, $10,000 a month. You can use it to make 8 figures. It still stays the same. And then they go into the cash and clarity part where it's more of the market research. And I'm still teaching the fundamentals like the timeline with the client, understanding like the pyramids, like things like that, where it's really basic concepts, but that it also gives them a really big sales boost. And then we go into the social media piece, and then I teach them the automation side. So it's a very holistic, but it
Yeah.
lays the foundation across the board. Yeah, yeah.
But I'm as I'm listening to you say this, and I am not. This is guys, listeners. This is not I'm not promoting Jeni. Trust me. A, she doesn't need it. B, like it. But I'm listening to you, and I'm literally going, hmm. We just hired a full time marketer on. That's well, we have, and we have another part time. But I'm just thinking, like, okay, we need to send Kelly to like Heather. We totally need to send Kelly to this, I think, and like because it would just well, any learning, um, and I've learned more about people who are not in my industry um, than I have from people in my industry, because people in my industries, like if I've been in an industry, whether it's the restaurants, whatever it is like they have their own way of doing things, and they typically don't think most people don't think outside the box, and you get this is how we've always done it type of thing. But when you go to another industry and you see something and you go, oh shit, we could do that in ours. Like, oh my God, like, and I remember like we used to take I sat on a buddy of mine's board on his company, and um, first time I toured around, I'm like, oh man, we do exactly what you do in the restaurant business, like exactly, and this is how these are the metrics that we use to gauge it. And they were like, I mean, it couldn't be a farther business than restaurant, and they're like, holy shit, this is totally applicable, and it helped them scale, and and help their customer service model, and their speed of service model in an infinite way, and so it's I think this is useful, like for people who are listening and going, if you don't have an understanding of any of this, taking this course with Jeni will give you that. And what's the course called again?
Time rich.
Time Rich.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called Time Rich. I
And
actually also do a lot of free videos, or like I do free Q&A constantly in my Facebook group, and it's Smart Success. And you can find that link to my from my bio, my profile, my Facebook profile. But you could tell like I get so passionate about this and about helping entrepreneurs and like saving them time from going down the wrong path, so I am always happy to answer questions or to do a free training or something if anybody asks.
yeah, like this is such a I mean, it's such a pain point. Sorry, it's such a huge pain point, and it's such an ignored point for people right now in their business, where they don't understand it, so they're shying away from it, and they're almost running away from it. And it's like you got to turn and you fight this dog, you know what I mean? Like you got to get in on it and really confront it and face it, and this would be a way for people to start to understand and learn. Anyways, that I think would be very helpful, not only for us, but I think probably for a lot of listeners too. So, guys, at the end we'll put all this links in the show notes, and making sure that we give you guys the information that you need, in order to take maybe a first or second step, or whatever step you need to take. You know, I mean, I feel like we haven't. Where are we at? Like 2 hours now. Oh my god. Um, I feel like we haven't even skimmed the
I
surface.
know. I'm like,
Um,
there's so much. There's so much.
like where we. Like there's, we've talked about AI, and now obviously we've talked about. I guess this is social media, but then there's this whole like how to where are some of the tools? Like I know that we use Upworks a lot. Tennille's manages we have I mean, outside of our marketing, we have a lot of what do you call them? People that work on Upworks. What's the name for them again? Freelancers, thank you, freelancers. We have like a ton of freelancers that do work for us, and some are good and some are not good. And like, how do you? I'm sure you use freelancers at some stage, but how do you manage your freelancers?
I don't use a lot.
Okay,
And if I do need that, I leave it to my team
right.
to manage that and to deal with it. I just tell them what I want. Um, they know me so well that I don't really have to do a lot of, expectations or anything. But when it's starting out, it's a little bit challenging. And I usually focus on finding someone that's not going to be a come and go person, where it's going to be someone that I can work with long term, even if it is just project based. Because again, if I have to train them on what I want or like my brand or things like that, that's a lot of work to have to go and do it with somebody different and back and forth. I don't like take it lightly, even if I have to go back and forth with someone 5 times. To me, that's a lot of work.
Hmm.
Like, so I want someone that already understands me, already gets me. Like, I have a developer that I've had, oh my gosh, I've worked with him for like 15 years. He knows me so well, and he's the one I said before, like, I'll disappear for a year. I'll still pay him, but he won't talk to me for almost a year, and then all out of the blue, I'll be like, "Hey, I want this done," or he'll let me know, like, "Oh, by the way, your site was hacked 3 months ago, and it was fixed." Like, it's just he just knows I don't need to know those things. Like, he's just going to take care of it. But I want people like that versus having to train someone or like familiarize them or like go back and forth and like make sure that they're the good fit. Like, I'd rather have someone that I can touch back with and work with long term.
Like, so you made an interesting comment there, and I think that's also where there could be a lesson taken, which is you don't get wound up in the small things. You stay up in the vision side of things, and you trust your people. Like, you know, most business owners would want to know if their site got hacked, and you're like, oh yeah,
It
no,
happens a
okay,
lot.
yeah, yeah. Um, but most people would make that an issue. Most people that would distract their time, energy, and focus. Sorry, most owners. Um, and you don't seem to get caught up in that stuff. What's the secret?
I think it's just been time. It's like the wisdom, right, that you get as a seasoned entrepreneur. I had my instructional designer came to me the other day and said, she sent me a snapshot that someone had basically, we'll say they were inspired by my business name and logo or my tagline. And so their company's name was, or they were using the name Time Rich, and then they were using something very similar to my tagline. And she said, "What do you do in this situation? Like when somebody's copying you and everything?" And I said, "I don't know, go on with my life." Like, she's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah," because most of the time when you see something like that, like if it was serious, it was like a corporation that came in, did it, like, then we'd have a problem, right? But over the years, these things happen. Most of the time, it's someone on their own little entrepreneur timeline. I look at the entrepreneur timeline. They're early on and they're still finding their voice. They're finding they're not stepping into their own yet, right? So they're mimicking. And that's the first stage to getting to mastery, right? So and things like that, like I just know that they're going to evolve and they're going to let that go. And it'll probably be in a few weeks where all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, this doesn't really fit me," right? They're still trying to mimic the what's working. So I just don't worry about things like that. Um, and I've seen it things like that happen so much that I've got bigger things to worry about, and I want to focus more on my goals versus the reaction stuff, right? It's such a time waster for me. Time is everything.
Hmm.
Time is the true luxury in life, right? If you have time, if you're busy doing busy work and like keeping up and making sure nobody's messing with your brand or like keeping up with all that stuff, like that's such a waste of time. If you're really focused on optimizing yourself, of showing up and helping people on a totally different level, do you really have to worry about so much of that stuff? No, because nobody can keep up. So I just worry about optimizing, like worry. I just focus on optimizing where I want to go and how I'm going to get there myself. Like just following what's going to be instinctive for me more than in what anybody else is doing. I just stay in my own lane and I don't really look. It's so funny too. Is like I have people ask me all the time, like, "Do you know so and so in online marketing?" And most of the time, it's no, and it's because I stay in my own lane. I
Right.
learned very early on that if you start hanging out with all the other online marketers, you start to pick up on trends and they influence what you want to do and what you think. And so I just stay in my own lane and I focus on what I know works, right? What I know is right for my business, not what somebody says you should do or you need to. In fact, when I hear that, And it's a big thing in the bro marketers. The bro marketers, they always say like, you should do this, you have to do this, you need to do this. And for me, it's like this 14-year-old rebel comes up and it's like, you're not the boss of me. Like, you guys say that, but I'm the one that's making this much money and not working. You
Right.
guys are working your tails off. Like, so I just come back to the state of I know what's best for my business. I know what's best for my business. I trust my instincts. So when it comes down to it, I just don't really look outside too much. I don't pay attention to what everybody else is doing. I don't copy anybody. I'm too focused on what I'm doing and doing it the best I possibly can.
Yeah, look, that's great advice. Great. I mean, most people get to the level in their business where they're an expert in it, and it's the outside distractions are what take you off your plan, and it's dangerous. It's a dangerous place to be. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm going to ask, like, just for like Heather, if you have anything, because I know your boots on the ground with this kind of stuff. So if you have any questions, please just pop back in here, like, or give me a wave or whatever. But I know that one of the other things that I was kind of like curious on, which is like, what are the common tools? Like, people have this broad-based AI, and it's like, this is kind of my lived experience. Is like when you start talking to people about AI, they go, oh yeah, I use ChatGPT, and it's like AI ChatGPT has become like the branded AI, and they think it's like, oh, that's all there is. And so I was wondering if what other common tools are out there, for business owners whether it's production, recruiting, like how I don't know how plugged you are on that stuff, and in terms of AI tools that people can use.
I keep it pretty simple. I do stick to ChatGPT. I call it
Yeah.
Chatty.
Hmm.
I stick to Chatty because I've really mastered it, and I love it, to be honest. But a lot of my students like Poe.
POE.
Mhm. Um, Most of them are using Poe. There's quite a few others that are pretty clever that I've played with them a little bit, but I just still go back to Chatty. I also see the reason I do that is because I see Chatty is getting better faster. And so, like, some people have said, no, Poe is so much more specific. Well, Chatty's got new levels of it coming out that are always getting more specific, right? So I just focus on that and staying there.
When you say
Um,
specific, what does that mean? Like,
like
in terms of,
they
like, what is
all like even ChatGPT has different versions of it, right? That you can use. And the different ones are like some are more research based, other ones are more like, a little bit more broad scale. Like there's just different purposes for them, and I don't want to go too much into that because I want to keep it timeless for you because they're all shifting, they're all changing.
right?
But um, ChatGPT is going to be the one that for a very long time that's going to be evolving the fastest and the best. So that's where I focus.
And
That's
why
where I
is
stick
that?
to. Plus,
It-
because for me, I teach. I'm a coach. I'm a business coach, right? So I teach, and most of them are familiar with ChatGPT. So
right.
it's me meeting them where they're at. Um,
But
what's that?
why is ChatGPT going to accelerate faster, or be like, is it because more people are using it, or
I'll be
because
honest,
there's
because
more money in
that's
it?
where the money is.
That's where the money
You
is.
know, that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's where the money is. I mean, look at the people who are backing it. And eventually it'll fade off and become one of the lesser used ones. There'll be new things that come out, right? But for now, that's the one the one to focus on.
Well,
Um,
Elon has that one that I forget what it's called. We were listening to him talk about it. But it's more like a raw version and I don't know if it's that's his sales pitch, is like he's trying to give you something more real to communicate with, or what.
but they're all doing that now. So we'll see what Elon does because I am I think he's one of the most brilliant minds of our time, right?
Yeah.
But I see the other ones doing that as well. Like Alexa just, I want to say her name. She's going to start talking to us. But they just came out with a whole new level of AI, and I just updated my computer last night, my Mac, and this one has Mac AI, and like all like like everything is going to the next level so fast. The other thing is I don't like to waste a lot of time learning something new. If something's already working exceptionally well,
Hmm.
I'm not a big believer in wasting time, right, on those things. It's not to say I won't test it out. And if I see potential there, and again, it comes down to instincts and preference, personal preference, right? But If I test it out and I see like there's a lot of potential here for me to do something really good with my people, or if it's going to serve people better for me to come up with something, like I'll figure it out. And I'm such a techie, I can figure things out so fast. But I try to, one is just focus on where the masses are, since that's what I'm going to be doing is coaching and teaching them. And the majority of my students, they're using ChatGPT. The majority of the public right now are using ChatGPT. So
Yep.
that's where I need to focus on becoming adept in, right? But like I said, we're in a primitive state of this right now. It's like back in the day when WordPress was just coming out, and you would add one plugin and the whole thing would break. All right. But I saw the future of it. I knew that they were going to be evolving. I knew that the team that they had in place, the people were brilliant, and that they were so committed that I knew it was going to become something huge. So this day, I still use WordPress. I love it. But I look at things like that. I look at the potential and the scale of the landscape of my business and see what should I bet on. And instinctively, like I know it's where the masses are, it's where the money is, and that just makes sense to me.
Hmm. So yeah, like it's almost mind-boggling when you say like we're right at the I forget what the exact phrase was that you used, but you were like we're right at the beginning phases of this. It's like the infantile phases of AI. And when you utilize AI and you see like the value, like when you learn to prompt AI more efficiently and effectively, what it can really do for you rather than like using it for an efficient Google search, which I think a lot of people use that. But then when you can really start to communicate and learn that it's like you you can have a full on conversation and really start to create creative conversations with it to drive full conversations on getting an outcome for your business and really dial it in. Um, like, where's the next step on this? Like, are we going? How far away are we from like a Jarvis type of a concept from a? And then like when you talked earlier about like that first stage of having a virtual assistant, like when can I have a virtual assistant when I can just speak into my headset and go, hey, Bonnie, da, 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 da,
Well, you can
rather than
already do that. You can already have. There's so many bots now that are trained to be VAs. There's so many. But look at the, oh my goodness, there's so much coming out. And I don't pretend to be like the granddaddy understanding of all AI, right? But
Mhm.
I mean, it's next year that we're going to have the household bots, right? Um, that's extraordinary to
What,
have the actual physical ones.
so sorry, you're talking about a humanoid robot, you mean? Yeah. So those are coming out, do you think next year? Really?
They're planned to come out next year. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. There's already some that are out. People haven't talked too much about this yet, but there's already some that are out. And I don't know if you've looked on YouTube, but some of them are so realistic, and you're like, "Oof,
Oh,
you
like,
can't tell the difference." One of them actually did pass as a human, which was amazing.
oh, really? Like, so I know that, like, I'm just going to confirm that what you're talking about here, but I forget the names of the company, but there's Elon has one robot that there's two real big leaders in robotics. One is Elon, and I forget the other company name. And I even forget Elon's company's name at the time. I don't know if you can research that, Heather, the um, but these two robots, like they're really talking about like the numbers that they're talking about are like 10 billion robots by I think it was like 2038 or something like that, or it might not even be that long. Um, but you so like I just want to flip back like, to there's a virtual assistant bot that I can just how does that work?
You can
And
have her sitting in your office next year,
what would be an
but
example?
you can also use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You can create a custom GPT and do that. I don't think it'll be very long before we can have them as an Alexa. I think that'll come next. But then I look at all like my son is obsessed with robotics, by the way, like humanoids, and he's obsessed. He is so fascinated and he's a little genius himself. But so we've done a lot of research and like looking at what the bot's going to be able to do, and all of these things. And he's really fascinated about putting the microchips in our. And I know it's really scary to a lot of people, and I'm sorry to say, but like putting the microchips in us, and as a part of Singularity, and he's really fascinated with all of that. So we've looked into it a lot. but the potential and how fast it's here, how fast it's here is amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. I have one Alexa in my like, I have Alexas all over the house, right? I even have one in my car. And I've got one in my dressing room, and that one's always been a little bit glitchy. It's like the one I've had out of like a dozen that's glitchy. And it's funny is I always think I'm like, I wonder if the humanoid is going to be like if you're just going to get a glitchy one time, once in a while.
Well, I
It's
feel
kind
like
of
you're gonna like that's one of those things when you say don't rush to like a new technology. I'm like, I don't know if I'm rushing to a robot. I mean, I'm excited about the opportunity of them, for sure. But I think there's going to be some complications for that. One thing that popped into my mind that I think maybe might be worthwhile clarifying for people when we talk about customizing a chat GPT, how do you do that? How would one go about actually creating their own custom chat GPT?
so you can hit my GPT in the top right corner, and then you hit, you put in instructions for it. What Here's a quick way to do it though is if you have already talked about your business. You've already created a thread with ChatGPT about your business. You can ask it like, "Here's what I do." I voice to text everything, as you know, to save my wrists. I voice to text everything. This is my business. This is who I serve. Blah 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 blah. And then I have ChatGPT organize it into a business model. And then I will narrow it down and be my business manager, my professional. You can say professional, international, renowned, like business manager. You can say like be my Dwayne Kerrigan business manager. Like you can say whatever you like, but have them organize it into a business plan and then say, okay, I would like to create a custom GPT for my business. And I would like it to do X, Y, and Z if you wanted to start spitting out social media posts every single day for you, or like, whatever you want it to do. You can tell it, I would like it to do this. And then you can say, please create instructions for a custom GPT that will do this for my business. And it will start to create it all. That's the quick way to do it. You take those instructions and you go to my GPT, you click custom GPT, you put the instructions in, and you hit save. That's the fast, easy, quick way to do it. Now, if you want to get it more customized, if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can upload files, including like your brand, your logo, your colors. Like you can upload all kinds of data, um, anything, spreadsheets, whatever you want. You can upload it into that so that it customizes it even more, and you can get a little bit more advanced. There's so many YouTube videos now that show how to do this too. And again, like Kate Nash has a program to how to do it, and right now it's free, so you might as well take advantage of it. And she's really good. I was surprised. I was so surprised, and I was so pleased that she was offering it for free. That was beautiful.
That's nice.
So, yeah, she's a doll. She's such a good-hearted person. Um, yeah, but that's the easiest way to do it. And like I said, there's so many videos on YouTube now that show you how to do it as well. And another quick way to do it is say, ChatGPT, please give me instructions on how to create my own custom GPT. And it will walk you through it. And you can even say, can you give
Oh
me
my god.
pictures or all of that? You can even say, can you create it as a printout? And it will create a file. You download the file, print it out, and you'll have it next to you while you go ahead and create it.
It is an unbelievable world that we are living in. And I mean, I can see people listening to what you just said and like a portion of their brain exploding.
I know they're gonna have to like pause, go slower, slow down the speed,
Yeah,
and
it's like
especially with my laryngitis here. Yeah.
they're gonna be like, "What? You can do what?" Like, and then they're gonna be like, How do I do that? What? Who?" And then, and I think like this is probably so a really good guys. This is like anything. It's like driving a car. When you first got into the car, you were gassy, brakey. You didn't know like what the turning radius of the car was, and you were looking at you didn't notice anybody on the sidewalk because like all you notice is the thing in front of you, and you're like right gas, and over time, it's the levels of learning, right? The four levels of learning. There's uh, unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. There's conscious incompetence. You know what you don't know, or you have an idea about what you don't know. And then there is um, conscious competence. You know what you know, and unconscious competence, which is where most of us get to, not all of us, but most of us get to an unconscious competence level of driving a vehicle where an example of when this happens is when you're driving down the road and you're like, I don't remember the last 10 kilometers I just drove. Like, how did I get here? Like, you were daydreaming about something else. You were listening to it. You were so focused on that it was like the car was driving itself, literally. And that is that level of unconscious competence where your brain is allowed to, you just focus on other things while you're just doing the thing. And, you know, I just would just say, guys, with technology, what we're trying to do is have an open conversation about what's available, things you should think about, and some resources that you can go and approach in order to get the ball rolling. The ball may be like rolling, or the train may be on the tracks, but it's not gotten any momentum whatsoever. And if you're in that stage, you need to start getting momentum. Like, the time has come. This will come so fast, it is going to blow our minds. Technology is not a linear movement, it's exponential, especially with AI. Like this, I mean, the crazy part, and like these robots, like when we get robots, when one robot learns how to take the cap off this water bottle, it will be able to distribute that learning instantly to 10 million other robots if they were linked together, which they will be linked together. So there'll be like infinite learning. That's where I think where they kind of come up with the calculations to where we'll get to with singularity. And then, do you want to explain singularity? You.
Oh, I don't know if I could do it justice. Let me think. So it's the idea that we are going to become one with AI, that we're going to have the microchips in our brains and then in our body. There's already a lot of that. That a lot of technology is already available and already being used. Most people don't really know that, but the idea that we are going to become one with it, and like I said before, I see it as a part of our evolution. It's like we were once, humanoid, or sorry, hominoids, right? Um, think I have that right.
Homo
But we were
sapiens, or
once,
whatever. Yeah.
yes, thank you. So, well, but we've evolved, right? And I think this is the next level of our evolution. And most people see it as two separate things. It's not. We created it. We created it. It's an extension of our intelligence, right? So for us to incorporate it with us, I don't see it as a negative thing. I don't see it as something foreign. I see it as part of our evolution. That's the direction we're headed. It's still something we created. It's still something that we, put together because it's something we wanted for ourselves. It's no different than using technology. Back in the day when we've now, what would the I forget what the first tools that were discovered were, like really just sticks that they had carved in like really really primitive pieces that were fossilized millions and millions and millions of years ago. It's still something we created and we started to use, right? I don't see AI as anything different.
Mm-hmm.
So for us coming to a point where it's going to be, we can develop things, we can just think of it and instantly have it, create and use AI to have that, or using AI to heal ourselves, right? Things like that. I see that as a part of our evolution. And there's, like I said before, you can't stop technology. You just can't. So it's here and it's coming. So the sooner we can embrace it, and the sooner we can understand and really focus on the responsible use of it, the good, using with good intention, the better. Like I see so much fear in it, like not wanting to teach it in schools and things like that. And to me, that's dangerous. To me, that's dangerous. To not teach our children how to use it responsibly and how to hone their skills with it. To me, that's what you should be worried about. When we can start teaching them now how to use it correctly, how to use it responsibly, how to use it for good, that's where our focus needs to be.
That's a whole nother conversation. Like, that's a topic right there. I'm thinking to myself, we need to get somebody on the podcast to talk about where education is going to go with all of this, and where the consciousness level of humans can go with the implementation of AI. And it's like, that's like a whole nother multiple series of conversations, podcast conversations. I mean, I think, like, I want to thank you so much, and I'm not actually ending this podcast, but I mean,
It's the never ending podcast.
It's the never ending podcast because it just keeps going on. Because actually, like, just as I said that, I went, what about Google algorithms? Like, how do we master Google algorithms, which is totally different from what we've been just talking about. But
Not really. It's
uh,
not really that different.
okay, well, share that with me.
The core concepts are still the same. It's funny is like anytime I think of algorithms, it's really simple because I know there's a lot of people that teach like algorithm hacks, right?
Yeah.
Or algorithm tricks or
Yeah, that's
algorithm
the
like beat the
buzzword, right?
algorithm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how people draw you in to their marketing to get them. Like, that's bit of a sales
But
pitch, I
but
think,
the core
sometimes.
concept is always the same.
Okay.
They are developed to be sticky and they are developed to serve, right? But to serve and keep them coming back. Keep them on the platform, keep them coming back. So, when you understand that, then it makes it really easy. You don't need to do hacks. You just need to focus on helping them to do that. And why do you do that? Is because I think the easiest way is just to focus on how can I keep the people coming back to me? How can I serve? How can I give more value? It becomes really easy, right? It doesn't matter anymore of like finding the right keywords and all this stuff. Like it becomes more instinctive. It's just like, okay, my people like this. I can look in my vault and I see all these things that people responded to. I'm just going to keep giving them more of this, right?
Right.
And you have those understanding of like of the fact that the algorithm is always going to be testing too, and that you don't have to be stuck on like stuck on whatever like mastering whatever it is the algorithm wants right in this moment. Instead, you just always focus on giving the people what they want and giving them so much that they love, they fall in love with you and they want to come back to you. That alone is just the algorithm is going to just follow suit. The algorithm's always just going to show you favor. So like the last 2 months, I've been sick, right? And I wasn't posting very much. And so when I came on to my coaching call with my students, I said, just this is a really good example. Is I've barely posted in 2 months. Um, I said, now the algorithm is going to be really slow for the next week. Probably it'll probably take me a week to come back. And they're like, well, everybody else says like it'll take weeks, like sometimes weeks takes they just don't like you anymore, and you have to do all this stuff to build back. And I was like, no, all I have to do is focus on engagement posts, simple engagement posts. Remember I talked about the dial and the different post types to use at different times.
Hmm.
Well, I just took this break. I know that I need to come back in and be really high on my ratio with engagement posts. The algorithm loves that because it's very simple questions or like conversation starters that get conversations going. And it feeds I'll even get a little further here, but into the science of the Maslow's six human needs,
Yep.
right? It meets multiple needs there. So we tie that in and you start to think about the more that you can do that on the platform and keep them coming back, the more that the algorithm is going to go like, okay, this is what people really love. People are engaging here. People are coming back here. They're jumping in a split second to answer. It's fast. They're answering fast. So the algorithm is like, okay, let me show you. So it was 1 week that passed. The first few posts got like 30 to 80 views. And then a week in, I got a notice saying, you're posting great engagement. We've increased your reach. And boom, it went to like 800 plus per post and then 1,000 something per post. And I was like, yeah, it took about a week as I called it. That's because I understand this. So if I jump back in with the engagement posts, now my reach is back up. Now I can go back into the ratio that I was talking about before, where it's like, I know my ratios, where I can go back into the story posts, the engagement posts, the value posts, and like objection posts and things like that. I know my own ratios for my business. So I can jump back into my ratio now. Now, if something happens again, I go travel, I jump back in, I throw out some engagement posts, and then I do rinse and repeat. Now there might be another time where I'm like, okay, I have a launch coming up, so then I double down on the value posts, right? You see how like it all kind of goes together. The algorithms, all you have to worry about is keeping them on the like they want to keep them on the page, on coming back to you. And if the algorithms see that you're helping them to be sticky, to stay on Facebook and
Yep.
to come back and to interact, then the algorithm, that's all you have to worry about is
Uh,
engagement,
uh,
honestly.
right. So yeah. So if you're keeping the customer sticky on Facebook, right? Because that's what the algorithm wants: is be on Google, be on Facebook, be on Instagram longer, spend more time, scroll more pages, uh, be more active, liking, sharing, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's part of the algorithms, and if you can help them be more sticky, then they are going to boost you.
Exactly.
And then the
So all
serve.
the other things you really don't have to worry about. Like all the
Mm,
other like
interesting.
yeah. Same thing goes with Google. If you look at what Google's goal, their main goal is, it's to add value and it's to make money, right? So if you start to like create blog posts and you think of it that way, you're like really helping Google to provide better value, if you're aligning your blog posts with, making it easier for them to see, like when they first come in, I'll dial this in a little bit, but like if the title is right and it's catchy, and the next tagline, the next line is really important, and then the URL is really easy to see what that is as well. Like those things help Google to serve better.
Mm.
So if you look at what their purpose is, that's the most important thing. And then if you really just focus on serving and your focus is mostly on your audience and your following, that's really all that matters. You don't have to worry about Google not favoring you anymore. You don't have to worry about, like, I've never done any kind of black hat or anything like that. And that used to be a big deal. And we had a blogger back in the day, I won't say his name, but he beat the algorithm, right? He figured something out. He figured out that the backlinks were votes. He was the first one to really, really dial this in, that the backlinks were votes. And this is not quite the same as it was back then now. But what he did was he started asking everybody, you give me a link and I will give you a link. So who ends up with all the links?
He does.
This guy did. Well, Google caught on and banned him.
Oh,
He was taken off of Google completely, and it tanked his site. It tanked his business. And he came up with another one and had to start over. But my point is, like, I've never had to do any kind of black hat stuff. I've never had to do anything like that because I just focused on connection. I focus on the 6 human needs. I focus on the more 6 human needs, that you can meet, the better. That helps me. If I present it in the right way for Google, they're happy. When it comes to social media posts, the same thing. I just keep it as focused on engagement as possible. If I keep them interacting and coming back, that's it. They want to see activity and they want to see them to being just constantly wanting to come back to your posts and your information.
so here's a question. I'll use this as an example for me, but I'm hoping, my intention is that will help other people. But sometimes, like, we'll put a reel on from one of our interviews, and it'll just resonate, and you're like, it gets all these hits, and you're like, or whatever, likes, or what, I don't even know what they're called. So, um, which frustrates my team, I'm sure. But but um, the I'll be like, well, there's this. How do you find out why people liked it so much? Like, because there's sometimes, like, I'm in the interview and I look at the post and I go, huh, what about that made people so drawn to it that they would share it or like it or whatever?
One, I look at the comments
Hmm.
and I see what they're responding to there. A really easy way to do this is to copy it. It's called scraping, right? Copy the comments, put them into ChatGPT, and ask it to analyze. Ask it to analyze what did they respond to so much in this thing. You can put the transcript in as well, and you can analyze together, and you can say what was it in this podcast that they really, really resonated with, and it will analyze the comments and compare it, and it will tell you. And then you go and compare and create more like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
scraping. That's called
hmm
scraping.
it is.
Guys, ChatGPT scraping. And
That's
you will
funny.
know that's that's
Oh,
next
and
level
let
though,
me say
right?
this too. So people that want to try that, here's a quick one because rather than most people are just going to copy and try to paste it into ChatGPT, it'll be too much. Put it into a spreadsheet, into like Google Sheets, and then upload the sheet to ChatGPT. That way you can have everything in one. But take the transcript, put it into ChatGPT, take the comments, put it into ChatGPT, upload it, and then ask it to analyze and tell you what content are they really responding to here? What is it they really love here? You can also say, in the comments, what are the pain points that they're really talking about that's really helping them here? What's the value that they're seeing in this? And then ask it to be your social media manager and create the content that you should create, focus on for more for this, and give you some ideas there. You can even say, give me a social media content plan out of this. I don't know if you want to do that off of one post, but I mean, one reel or something. But you could start to analyze it if you create one entire thread and keep doing it with multiple. You could do that very quickly and start having some serious help from ChatGPT for that.
Wow, like that's mind blowing. I'm driving. If I'm driving a car, I might have just drove into a telephone pole. I'm like, what is she saying? Because I mean, and obviously we can't get that granular on a podcast, but so I just want to sum this up. So it's like if you had a post in your business and it got a lot of interest, you could take the comments and the transcript from that post, put it into a spreadsheet, and then upload it to ChatGPT, and then it'll have that content, and then you can have a conversation with ChatGPT to find out what was it that was so attractive about that. And then so that was all kind of okay. And then you went, yeah, and then you could just have them basically create a social media plan. So basically, are you asking, you're just going to ChatGPT and say, hey, create me a social media plan, and they're going to just give you it.
So
ChatGPT
for
will.
mine, like mine is, I have a GPT that's customized for my specific content plan. There's so many different ones out there, right? Like some people truly focus on a know, like, and trust content plan, but I don't do that. So like I have my own that has my own ratio and things like that. But you can give it as much direction as you want. If you want to say like, be my world renowned social media planner or project manager and help me map out the most effective, like be descriptive in it, right? The most effective social media plan specifically for XYZ platform, like be specific and tell it you want something extraordinary. And here's a little trick too is once it does this, ask it, how can I make this even better? I do this all the time and it will say, what, you could actually add this and this and that and this and that. It gives you so much. It gives you so much that you don't even think about. And you can actually say, think outside the box. How can I make this better? And it will start to help you optimize it.
I love so that's a really good example of a prompting ChatGPT, but it's also a really good example of how I don't want to use the word conscious, but how human-like it thinks. Because if you had a conversation with an expert that had a lot of knowledge about a topic, and then you have this, and then you go, well, what would be the one? What if I did one more thing? What would that one more thing be? Or if I was to optimize this even more effectively, how could I do that? And they'll go, oh, well, you do this. It's like no different than this conversation we've been having. It's like because it's the never-ending podcast. Because obviously, like, well, wait a second, you talked about that, and what about this? And then you go, oh, well, let me tell you, and that's what ChatGPT will offer us. Yeah. Are any of us going to work in the future like that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's to me, this like what you've just described here is like pretty much every social media marketing person is, I mean, not every, but this is going to either super optimize the industry and make it more efficient, but more efficient would mean that probably some people won't be required in their current roles. And so, it also another podcast conversation of where we're going to be in the next 20 years in terms of how many hours we work and universal basic income and all that kind of stuff.
That's a good question for ChatGPT.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe my next interview will be ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. I want to be there for that. Oh my goodness.
I do want to circle back. Sorry, on one more thing. I'm sorry. The types of posts. I have value post, objection post, story post, engagement post. I had 4 written down. Is there more?
Oh gosh, there's like hundreds, but those are the ones I
Oh,
focus on.
okay.
Like I said before, like 99% of what most entrepreneurs do out there is not necessary.
Right.
So you find what works for you, you dial it in, you keep it skinny, and you focus just on that, rinse and repeat. So I have my students focus on a specific ratio that they start at, and then and depending on what their business is, what their model is, what their topic is, their niche, everything, they choose what they're going to start with, and then they modify it just depending on what's working. So it's like you have to start somewhere, right? We'd start at the baseline, but I specifically focus on those ones that you just mentioned, and then also problem awareness posts.
Problem awareness posts.
Yeah,
What's a
because
problem?
sometimes they don't
What's an
realize
example of that?
they have a problem.
Oh,
Like yeah, where you're like for me, if I point out like if you're thinking that you have to do ads to scale, that's not the truth. Or like if you're thinking that you have to have this ideal client and that no matter what, your business is not going to work unless you have this ideal client dialed in, and I point out that this is a problem. That's not the truth, right? If I point out those mindset pieces, that's a big one. If I point out that you know, I'm trying to think of something like one of my students. He said if he points out that um, McDonald's, like if they're taking, he's a weight loss coach. So if he's taking their kids, there's people that are taking their kids to McDonald's and they're thinking, well, I grew up with this. It's okay. I can eat this. And he's like, well, the truth is that's not true. And he'll show the ingredients where the ingredients back then were like 3 ingredients and today it's like 30.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's just showing a problem, right? That they didn't really realize it was a problem, but that's not accurate. So it's like pointing out things like that, pointing out like that you feel like you're eating really healthy, but is your stomach still flat when you go to bed at night as it was when you were waking up in the morning? That's something they didn't even think that that was a problem. Like they didn't realize that was a thing,
Right.
like things like that. So pointing out the problems that they're not really aware of. That's a big one. That's a really big one.
Hmm. Good. Very interesting. This has been really enlightening. Well, like we've covered so much here, and I think the girls are coming in. So this is probably hi guys. The girls are here. We're still recording, so probably gonna shut this off, guys, for the listeners. It's okay. This has been a very casual
That's funny.
conversation today, but yeah. So our friends and family are here. We're going to shut this podcast conversation down. This has been unbelievable. I'm here. I'm going to put this out for the listeners. I will share an opinion. This is an opinion. Um, Complexity is the enemy of execution. And this is a path that we all have to start focusing on and training on and working towards. Um, and it's not going away. So if you're wishing this is going to go away, it's not. And and you don't need to do everything all at once. Keep this very simple. Start working towards a plan. Sit down maybe with your team and go, what, or ask ChatGPT. We don't do a lot of marketing online, social media. What would maybe be the first steps that we take? It'll give you some things. To Jenny's point, go out and get some coaching, take an online course. That doesn't mean the owner has to take the online course. Engage your people in doing this. They will love it because they'll feel empowered because they're helping solve problems in your business. Hire somebody part-time or virtually to kind of step into this role and help you through this process so that you can continue to operate your business and continue to, because I mean things are very crazy right now, especially in North America. There's a lot of things happening with tariffs and trades and potential cost increases and stuff. And so you got to be managing your business, guys. But this also creates opportunity when there's typically when there's uncertainty or chaos. And I don't want to use the word chaos because I don't think there's chaos personally. There is some uncertainty. There's no question about that. And people feel about that at different levels. But this creates opportunity. And, don't be asleep at the wheel here, but also don't make this harder than it needs to be. It's like driving the car, like we talked about. You can do this, you can learn it, you can get resources. Resources are everywhere. It's your resourcefulness that is going to get you through this. I'll jump off my soapbox and stop being rendering my opinion, but that I think is, if I was coaching anybody, that would be my coaching, comments.
That's amazing. you you summed that up so well. No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here, and again, like congratulations on the 1,000,000 downloads. That's absolutely extraordinary. I hope you will take some time to actually sit with it and be like, that really is cool. Like,
It means a lot because if we've downloaded 1,000,000 times, it means we got to be helping people because we've had so many beautiful guests on this show, including you, that this is what we're trying to do. Is we're just trying to help bring some clarity to people's lives, to support them where they need to be supported. And so I'm just grateful to be a small cog in the wheel of this whole process. I'm just I'm just happy to be the, as I say, the monkey in the chair that's behind the mic, but it's really it's the guests that are providing the information and sharing and being like, so you're such an example of this. You are so um, giving of your time and your knowledge and your energy and your compassion towards that. It's like, I'm so grateful. Love you, kiddo. Thank you for being on the show. We're going to sign off so that you can say hi to some friends that are here to see you, and love you lots, guys. Thanks for listening. How do people find you, by the way? Sorry, I always forget that.
Brilliant Etc. is my website, brilliantetc.com. And then you can find my Facebook group, which I do a lot of coaching. And I keep it kind of calm in there. I didn't start it on purpose. I started it to show my students how to set up a Facebook group, and now we have a Facebook group. But if you go in there too, I do videos and trainings in there, and I answer questions all the time just to help out. It's not monetized or anything, but you're welcome to find me there as well. And that one's called Smart Success on Facebook.
Smart Success on Facebook. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Sorry, my wife was just looking at me, so I was a little distracted there. But thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate Jeni. Just thank you. This shit is going to save people's businesses. I really believe that.